What up, guys? Today on the podcast, we have Nelson. He is Nelson Puentes. I'm going to...
That's correct.
Probably not the best pronunciation of his name. He's from Chile. And Nelson is a Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's the founder of Inverted Gear. If you've ever seen the little inverting panda on one of those geese or t-shirts, that's his company. And I met Nelson originally at Nogi Worlds 2022. And I did a seminar at his gym. Super, super nice guy. Him and his family were fantastic. His wife, we went over to their house, and she made pancakes for all of us on Sunday morning.
Nice.
So again, super cool people, but they were incredibly nice. Gym was excellent. All of the students were super cool, and so I wanted to have him on the podcast to talk about, I thought it was neat talking about a guy who came from Chile, came from another country, started a business, made his life, grew his roots down here in the U.S., and then also talk to him about, his jiu-jitsu training and then his involvement with the gi company. So we'll get into all that stuff, and I hope you guys enjoy it. As always, thanks to our sponsors for helping make this thing happen and help us bring our lovely voices to your ears. Charlotte's Web, if you've never checked them out before, Charlotte's Web is a CBD company. They are one of the premier premium CBD companies that are out there. They make a great product that's third-party tested, meaning they have another company that's not associated with them go in and test their product to ensure the purity of the product, to ensure that what's on that label is what's actually in the bottle. Because again, you may not know it, but it's not FDA regulated. CBD is not. And so people can make a product, and it's happened in a bunch of cases where what they say is in the product is not actually what's in there. And there's varying amounts of stuff and stuff that maybe shouldn't be in there. And so they go through a very stringent process to make sure they deliver a really good, high quality product. And, from talking with them, the idea is that once it is FDA regulated, they'll be like perfectly in bounds to keep running as is. And again, I prefer using my CBD at nighttime as kind of a winding down ritual as I go to sleep. It seems to help me as far as with everybody has a lot of stress on them throughout their lives. We're all busy, we're all working, all that stuff, training hard, all that stuff. And it's been helpful for me as part of my recovery and my sort of like my sleep routine at night. But again, I encourage people to try it, see what it does for them. Again, it is a supplement, and so it may be awesome for you, like it has been for Eugene and I. And then again, maybe it's not. So try it out, see what you think. And if you want to try out one of their products, whether it be their tinctures, their gummies, their balms, whatever it is, you can use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order. And again, that's at charlottesweb.com. Also, thanks to Epic Roll, epicrollbjj.com. It is a jiu-jitsu brand company that sells gear, rash guards, or say that is gear, right? But gear and apparel, and then everything from gym bags to fanny packs, everything in between. I'm a big fan of Matt. Matt's one of the owners. I really like his no-gi shorts. They have no Velcro in them, which I find really nice. They're very comfortable, and they don't wear out. I've been wearing the crap out of his the shorts that he had done for me. What is it, about 2 years now?
Yeah, it's probably
about 2 years. And I mean, they're holding up just fine. And I put them through the ringer, and they hold up just fine. Whereas I've had shorts that were, with the little Velcro straps, and they're fine, but that Velcro wears out. But again, they also have really cool designs on their t-shirts. I tend to wear them a lot. If you've ever watched any of my videos, you'll see me usually wearing a Jiu-Jitsu shirt or a Epic Roll shirt. And again, if you want to check out any of their stuff, I encourage you to just go on their website and browse at epicrollbjj.com. If you find something you like, use the promo code Chewjitsu, CHEWJITSU, for 15% off your order. Also, thanks to our members who support us at Patreon. If you guys want to be a Patreon subscriber, you can do so by going to patreon.com/the-jiu-jitsu-podcast. When you join up for the very inexpensive rate that it is, you get access to an exclusive library that we've created over the last several years that has a special snippet with each one of our guests that we've had on the podcast, including Nelson. Along with that, you have access to some other exclusive content, like a seminar that I recorded for Jiu-Jitsu. Eugene taking people through a warm-up and stretching routine specific to Jiu-Jitsu. So all of you guys that are like, I'm really inflexible and I'm stiff, it would be really useful to you because it's specifically made for Jiu-Jitsu practitioners. And there's a lot of other stuff. And if you guys want to get access to it, you can do so by going to patreon.com/the-jiu-jitsu-podcast. And last but not least, guys, if you want to join up and get my daily email newsletter that I send out, you can do so. It's almost daily. I don't necessarily do it all the time on the weekends. Sometimes I do, but Monday through Friday for sure. You can get it at going to my website at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. Upon joining, you'll get access to some exclusive free ebooks that I give away. One is on how to develop your own game plan for your jiu-jitsu. The other one is how to add a little bit of focus to your jiu-jitsu. And then after that, you will get my daily email that I send out, which can be everything from book recommendations to training recommendations to random things that I'm thinking about to, training ideas that might be useful to you, all that and more. And again, you get that by going to my website at chewjitsu.net/join. So guys, with that said, let's jump into the podcast with Nelson.
What did it feel like to you, growing up in Chile your whole life, or up until you were 14, coming here, starting over, learning language and different culture? What was that like for you?
I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Especially school. I was going to an all boys Catholic school, and it was like very strict. And the way it worked down there is you were in a class, have 45 classmates, and we stayed in the classroom, and then the teachers rotated around us. Everybody took the same subjects. So English teacher would come in for an hour, then he would leave. Then the math teacher would come in. Then we'll get like a 10-minute recess. Then come back to the classroom. Then the history teacher would be there waiting for us. And then that's how the day went. So I'm like dyslexic. I have ADHD. So I keep like learning disabilities, and that's set up where like you just like expected to sit for hours at a time. And you're getting like this like 10, 15 minutes of recess. And you have to wear this uniform, and you have to have this tie tied on right, and then your hair has to look a certain way. And it was hard. So it was really hard. Like schooling was really hard for me. And then when I moved to the US and then I had like freedom, they're like, hey, like what classes do you want to take? Do you want to take a writing class? Do you want to take a literature class? Do you want to take, what kind of math do you want to take? What electives do you have? I mean, like electives, like what? I get to like study something that's fun and like that I enjoy. It was great. And like I got to wear normal clothes to school, and I got to walk around from classroom to classroom. Like it was great for me. The language barrier was tough, like, the first few months. I remember like making this decision. My high school had a pretty large Hispanic population, lots of Colombians, lots of Ecuadorians, lots of Puerto Ricans. So when you come in, they make you take this class called ESL, English as a Second Language. So I was in this room, and then there were kids that were seniors in high school and had been in this ESL class their entire high school career. So they would take they call POE classes, Port of Entry. So it's kind of like this, it's for kids that don't really have a handle on the language. So it's like a little bit easier. Sometimes they might have a teacher that speaks Spanish in the classroom, help you translate and get through the material. And they would take ESL classes and these POE classes and get their certificate and then like go on without ever learning how to speak English the entire time they were in school. So I was like, I hated having to take this extra class. So I was like, I do not want to do this. I just want to learn how to speak English, get done with this class, and then just be able to take whatever classes I want. And I had placed in English high enough, like make you take an English placement test high enough that I was in regular classes already. So I didn't have to take any of the POE classes. So I was like, okay, now I just have to get rid of the ESL class. So I forced myself to speak English. I didn't make any Latin friends. So I didn't have someone I could talk to in Spanish. So forced myself to speak to the American kids or immigrant kids from different countries. I had immigrant friends, but they were like Pakistani, Laos, China. So we had like, the only common tongue we had was English. And then I remember joining the football team just because I was like, okay, if I join the football team, no one's going to speak Spanish in the football team. And so I joined the football team, and then I remember like my the kids in the football team was like, this football, right? Like American football, and they make like football throwing motions, like not soccer. I was like, I know. Like I tell them like I play rugby. So I joined this football team. Remember like the first practice, like, oh, what position you want to play? I never seen a football game. I have no idea what the positions are. So I look at the coach, like, oh, I run very fast. the coach is like shakes his head. He's like, okay, let's go with the running backs. And like has me a jersey. I remember it was like 6 games into the season. I didn't know what a first down was still.
Oh, nice.
I would
Very
look
good.
I would look at the sticks. I was like, okay, the sticks on the 1 now. Then the sticks on the 2. It's like, okay, why are we back to 1? Like no one took time to explain to me how like the 10-yard rule works and like how first downs work. So it was really interesting first year. But yeah, like I mean, by sophomore year of high school, my high school career was pretty much normal. Like, I had picked up the language. I had this, I was like pretty outgoing. My sister is like more of like introvert and like more of a perfectionist. So she had like more of a harder time adapting and like, putting herself out there because she wanted to speak like this perfect English without an accent and like always saying the right thing. Meanwhile, I had like no trouble speaking like Tarzan. So as long as people understood what I was saying, I didn't care. I sounded like Tarzan. So I just throw it out there and then eventually got better. And then, I mean, I still have an accent. And it's funny, it was like I learned more languages since then, but I always have a Spanish accent. And it's kind of like, it's kind of a point of pride at this point.
Yeah. That's funny. I played football in high school as well. And I knew how the game was roughly played. I knew a touchdown was 7 points. I knew some of these things or whatever. But then like when I actually like got into the actually playing it, I didn't really know how the game actually worked. And I remember the first year I started playing it, they're giving me these plays and I'm kind of just looking to the guy next to me like, what am I supposed to be doing? And I learned how to play it on the fly, and I didn't become like an actual fan of football until after playing it. But I relate to that. I remember showing up to football practice just because one of the coaches said I should. He's like, what position would you like to go for? I was like, I don't know. I was like, you guys told me to come here, so here I am.
Why did you choose football? Just to learn the language? Usually in South America and those countries, soccer is big. Did you play soccer growing up at all? Or soccer something you still played?
I did. I was just terrible. I think that's part of the reason my family had to like move out of the country because of the shame I brought to the family.
I didn't start playing soccer till I moved to the States. So I was like 12, but that was like my sport that I played. I didn't do any wrestling, or I did very, very little wrestling. I kind of quit after a week because I was like, this is not for me. So I played soccer, and that was kind of the thing I kind of was drawn to, but it was after the fact. So
by the way, I messed up. A touchdown is 6 points.
It is. Yeah, I didn't want to correct you.
It's the kick afterwards. It's 1 point or a 2-point conversion.
Point after touchdown.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure because I'm sure someone was like waiting.
Sure.
Technically,
yes, we know what you meant. Most of the time, the kicker should, kick the extra point. But so you played football, and then like after high school, did you have an idea what you wanted to do?
So after high school, I at one point I started wrestling and I did track, and I did pretty well my senior year. I made it pretty far into the region. I was like, I think 2 matches away from making it to the state. I was like on the wrestle back bracket, and on one of my last matches, I broke my thumb. Somebody was trying to turn me over. I was trying to stop the turnover, and like my hand just gave, and then my thumb just like bent in half, and like I broke my hand.
Damn.
So that I was a pole vaulter in track, so that kind of messed my senior season up. And after high school, one of the few like Division III colleges nearby like offered me, say, hey, like come to this college and you can wrestle in college. And I think it's one of those things where like these small colleges that have like small teams that kind of just throw those letters out to encourage kids to come to this like random college you wouldn't hear about any other way, and give you an option of doing your sport in college. My high school wrestling coach talked me out of it. He said, hey, like, you're a smart kid and you've only been wrestling for 2 years. I only started my junior year. It's like, when you move on to college wrestling, whether it's Division I or Division III, you're going to be facing off about these kids have been wrestling their entire lives. So you don't have to wrestle in college. You're a smart kid, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. So I didn't wrestle in college. I got into Seton Hall University. I got on a scholarship. I was a physics and engineering major at one point. And I played rugby. I got back to playing rugby in college. After a year, I stopped playing rugby, got into really into weightlifting. And I just miss grappling. I miss wrestling. I miss being on the mat. So this is about 2007. So me and one of my buddies started looking for an open wrestling tournament. Just go and wrestle. And the algorithm gods blessed me. And the Abu Dhabi was in New Jersey in 2007. So my search query somehow pulled up the Abu Dhabi tournament. And I saw these highlights of Marcelo Garcia, like arm dragging people, taking their backs and choking them out. And I was like, what is this? I've seen MMA before, but I never seen like Jiu-Jitsu tournaments before. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then I just went down this rabbit hole of watching Abu Dhabi, and then eventually like Brasileiros and whatever grainy footage of Jiu-Jitsu was on YouTube at the time. So I signed up, called my buddy up, shared the links, and then we said, oh, it's Jiu-Jitsu, we should do Jiu-Jitsu. And then we found there's a Grappler's Quest like 6 weeks away. So we signed up for this Grappler's Quest before ever taking a Jiu-Jitsu class.
Nice.
And signed up for the tournament. Then we're like, all right, we got to find somewhere to train. So we tried out a few schools in the area. We went to like this MMA school, and then like the first class was okay, which is like a lot of takedowns. So we were like super happy about that. And then we went back for another class, and then they're like, okay, like put your gloves on. And we're like, wait, I thought this was grappling classes. Like, yeah, but we're doing so-and-so has an MMA fight, so we got to work ground and pound. So they say, all right, one guy put gloves on. The other guy in the bottom, you survive. I was like, survive? So you haven't taught me any guard.
This is the old days, bro. That's some old days stuff.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, this is not the place. This is not the place. So I had met this guy. His name was David Ellis. He was trying to make the Olympic team at the time, and he was training at this judo school nearby. And then he would cross train jiu-jitsu, and he would teach jiu-jitsu classes in the morning. So I started training this judo place. I would take these 2 jiu-jitsu classes, 2 inters in the morning, and then I would train judo at night the rest of the nights. And then they had Newasa, so it was like judo groundwork also. So my first like year, I was just doing mostly judo, a little bit, and then jiu-jitsu, a little bit of jiu-jitsu, cross training in a few other schools. I tried like a traditional Gracie school under the Hoyle lineage. It just wasn't a good fit. I didn't like it. Eventually found a place that was jiu-jitsu all the time. And I think I'm around my purple belt. I got my blue belt in a year, and then I got my purple belt a year after that. So inside of 2 years, I had my purple belt, and I won a bunch of tournaments at white belt and blue, and mostly because I had decent wrestling, and I learned some judo. So when I got to my purple belt, I started losing matches, and I realized the only time I lost matches was when I couldn't get a takedown. The guy was either like had better judo, pulled guard right away, or was like a Division I wrestler or something. So I was like, okay, like there's obviously a hole here. So I started pulling guard every match for the next, I think, 3 years. I just worked my guard and competing as much as I could. And I got my black belt 6.5 years, I believe.
Okay. And how often were you training, like from that first 2 years when you got your purple belt? How often were you training that made it possible?
Like at least like every day, and then like a few double sessions every day.
Okay.
So I had like this jiu-jitsu filter in my life where every decision I made went through this. How does this affect my jiu-jitsu?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had one of those.
And then is it worth it? Because I need like, I need my double sessions. Like I remember all the time, like training in the morning somewhere in Newark. And then I was, the school was nearby, and then like you just rushing, like, taking a shower, rushing over to campus, like running in, being late half the time. Practice just run long because I needed to get like my morning session, and then like, staying on campus, getting whatever skill work I need to get done, leaving, going to afternoon training. There was at one point when I was a purple belt, I was a purple belt. I was 15 degrees away from graduating. So I dropped out of school. I didn't drop out of school. So I took a break. Originally took a break to work.
Are you still on a break?
I'm still on a break, yeah. So I took a break. I have immigrant parents, so that's how it was sold. I was like, listen, Ma, it's like, like I know money stuff because like I was working and my dad would pay for school and I would help however I could, like, cover my books, cover my gas. So I was like, my sister was finishing up school and it was expensive. So I was like, hey, let me take a break. I'm gonna work, save up to pay for my last semester and a half, whatever I needed to get done, like for those last credits. So I took this time off. My instructor at the time had a painting company, so I got a job at the painting company, and then I was teaching jiu-jitsu at like 3 schools, like different classes throughout, like over Jersey during the week. I remember like I would teach like a class at 6 p.m. somewhere until 7, then jump in my car and like teach 7:30 to 8:30 somewhere else. And then like, a different school on like Monday and Wednesday, and then another one on Tuesday and Thursday. So I was like all over the place. So I would train in the morning, go work at the painting company, and then go teach jiu-jitsu at night to make money. So I saved up a good amount of money. I was living at home. I was saving money. I was competing as much as possible. And this opportunity to order jiu-jitsu gis came up. Like when I was teaching, the Panda logo came up. We were like wearing it as my team logo for like Nelson Puentes Jiu-Jitsu. So we made some t-shirts, started going to tournaments, and people started asking to buy the t-shirt. So I was like, oh man, like maybe there's something here. So I decided to like create this brand. So rebranded from Nelson Puentes Jiu-Jitsu to Inverted Gear, created a website, found factory that would make 100 gis for me. And then I had to put a down payment for all these gis. So all this money I had saved up for school went to the gis.
How did you come up with so let's talk about the Panda. How did that come about? Like, were you just spitballing, just like, oh, let's make it what happened?
So it was 2007, to set the scene a little bit for the guys that went around then. Like it was like the peak, like Affliction and Extreme Couture years. And everybody was going like the tough guy,
Skulls
MMA,
and aggressive stuff,
the dragons and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything had like either a dragon, a skull, or angel wings. Sometimes bat wings if you were especially a bad man, right?
Oh my god, those damn shirts! You'd see them all. You'd go out to a bar, and like every guy would have they'd have the Affliction style shirt, Ed Hardy shirt, whatever it was, and they'd have those like jeans that were tattered, and they had like all the crap on the pants with the crosses and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
y'all are hating, man, but it was a good look.
Huh?
Look, I'm kidding.
I mean,
it's very indicative of that time. Every now and then, like I think a few years ago, I saw a guy that was still dressed like that. You know, he's about 45, 48, something like that. And I'm like, he's still there. He's still back in 2008, 2009.
Never trained a day in his life.
Yeah. So it was also the peak of when Ryan Hall and my buddy Dave were doing like inverted triangles. So like this inverted guard was just starting to enter the jiu-jitsu zeitgeist. So inverted guard, the burn bolo was just being developed. So we ran across this picture of a panda doing that. And I was like, oh my God, the panda is doing jiu-jitsu, he's doing upside down jiu-jitsu. And then I showed him to one of my friends that was he was a photographer and he was really good at Photoshop. So I was like, hey, like I want a logo. You think you can turn this panda into a logo? So he put it on Photoshop. He pretty much like traced the picture of the panda, doing this thing. And there was the logo. And eventually, added inverted gear to it. And the brand was created and it kind of took off. And then I didn't go back to school. And my mom still brings it up.
Yeah. I think that logo, like you could look at that panda without anything else, any of the lettering, and you'd know what it is. Like most people in the jiu-jitsu community, it's kind of like iconic in some ways. Most people will know what that logo is because you guys have been around for a while. How many? It's 2008, so
2012 was when I started the brand. So I started the brand in 2012, and then later that year I met my wife. And she's a graphic designer. So once we started dating, I asked for help. She's like, oh, yeah, let me take a look at your design files. And she's like, what is this? So she had to like fix everything. And everything has run so much better since she came on board.
How did your wife, she's a black belt as well. How did you guys meet?
So we met again at a Grapples Quest. She was refereeing at the time. And I remember I went there and then I had a especially good day and I was a brown belt at the time. I beat this like very well-known black belt. I won't say the name because I think the loss still bothers him. And And I've been another brown belt world champion. So I ended up like winning my division, winning my brown belt gi division, winning the brown belt absolute.
Feeling good.
He's feeling good. I think I ended up taking it second or there in the absolute. So confidence all-time high, right? And then it's getting towards the end of the day, and the purple belt absolute is going. One of my training partners is competing, so I'm just coaching him. And then this really cute ref is refereeing. So I never seen her before, and something's going towards the end of the day. So my student is fighting this like monster of a man, and the guy sweeps my student, my training partner Andrew. He sweeps my training partner. Hillary puts it. My wife Hillary puts the points up, and the table is like tired at the end of the day, so the points don't go on the scoreboard right away. So the guy like looks at the ref, is like, "Hey, what the fuck? Where's my points?" And then you see like this 5'3" little blonde girl just looks at him and is like, "Hey, you duck again, you're disqualified." And then this giant human goes like, "I'm sorry." And I was like, damn, she can boss me around any day. This is what I need in my life. So afterwards, I was like, "Hey, hi, how are you? My name is Nelson."
You go show her the
What's your
medals.
name? It's like, "Oh, where you train?" And then like, yeah, you know, I'm probably wearing my Grandpa's Quest belt at the time.
Letting her know what's up. I'm a champion. It's not a big deal or anything.
Not a big deal.
Yeah, that's cool. So as far as like what happened after that, so like she was already pretty well into the competition scene herself.
I mean, she's four-time world champion. She won worlds adult at blue and purple, both gi and no gi. So she's much more accomplished in competition. At this point, she was much more accomplished in me in competition than I was. And I mean, today she's more accomplished. She just got back to competing after the babies, and her first tournament back was like Master Worlds. She took second. Wow. Then she won Nogi Worlds, and she just took third in her division of the European, and then came back in the absolute, beat the girl that had beat her in the weight class, and then made it all the way to the finals and lost to like this super heavyweight champion in a close match. So she's amazing. She's super tough. She's so fun to watch compete.
That's cool. So as far as like, you know, growing, let's get back to kind of growing the company. So you guys are kind of, you had already started the, you know, your inverted gear, kind of what was going to be the start of it. Then she comes along and kind of helps you out. Then how does that start to flourish? How does the brand start to kind of grow and evolve from there?
So to give you a picture, so we ordered 100 geese to start with, right? And then I'm in my mom's basement using it as a warehouse, and we sell some of the geese, and we do a pre-sale to sell the last, like, you know, a few more geese, so I can cover the cost of making 100 geese. I didn't have enough money saved up to pay for 100 geese outright. So I pay for my geese, then I have to deal with like customs and import duties and like, you know, clearance, and like, I had no idea about any of this. So I get that done. Within a few weeks, all the geese are gone. We sold all the geese that we had ordered. So now we order 150 geese, and then same thing happens. They come in, we pre-sell some towards the end, they're all gone. Okay, again, now we go from 100 to 150, from 150 to 200. By the time we got, I think the fourth order was 250, and then like my mom's basement, which was bursting. Like there's nowhere to feed any more geese in any kind of organized fashion. So at that point, I had a friend that I met doing jiu-jitsu. He trained jiu-jitsu in North Jersey, and he got a job working at BJJ HQ. So I reached out to the BJJ HQ people if they were interested, and then they reached out to him, told him about what we were doing. They liked the geese. They started ordering some of the geese, and then I was like, hey, like, you know, I'm having this trouble. I'm running out of warehouse space. Could you guys help me out with the fulfillment? So BJHQ ended up fulfilling our geese for a good amount of time. I think 6-7 years. BJHQ did our fulfillment, and that was a big catalyst into us growing. Is just BJHQ putting orders in of like, every time we made something new, we let them know, hey, these are the geese we're making this year, or like, you know, this quarter, these are the rush guards, and then they will put like big orders in. And then that will help with our cash flow. And then also it's kind of like we're getting paid to advertise, because BJHQ was it's still so big. You know, there's a lot of people that only buy gear through BJJ HQ. So there's those guys that just checking the website every day, and then there's some people like don't like, you know, got burned out or like don't check those emails anymore. So, but there's always one guy in the academy that always has BJJ HQ gear.
Mhm.
So that guy wearing our gi and like, you know, walking through the academy, say, hey, what gi is that? Where you get it? Blah, blah, blah. And then eventually that would lead to us getting more sales. Also around this time, Hillary and I were just traveling a lot, visiting friends, doing globetrotter camps. And then from the globetrotter camps, we started getting invited to do seminars all over the world. And then that really helped just kind of put the word out there and just like meeting more people and just evangelizing, just going out, like, you know, people didn't know we existed. Now they meet you, then, you know, you show them an armbar setup that works for them. And then they're like, oh man, I like that guy. So next time I buy gis, instead of buying gis from this faceless corporation or a brand, I'll just buy from Nelson, you know?
That's cool. And, you know, there's like, anytime you start something new like that, there's, initially there's that idea and then you execute on it. And then eventually it sort of crosses this threshold of where you realize it's like it's a viable idea for like a livelihood, essentially, right? So with the gis, was that immediate? Did it like, oh man, this is working out great, or did it take a couple of years before you're looking at it, saying to yourself, okay, this is legit. I could live on this. I could raise a family on this, that kind of thing. When did that point happen when you started the gi business?
So I would say about 3 years in. I like the hustle I was explaining before about working at this painting company and teaching jiu-jitsu for a living. That's what paid my bills for the first 3 years. And then that's what allowed the company to grow, because whatever money we made, I just reinvested into the company, like buying more inventory, buying like Hillary needed a laptop. Her laptop was really old. So like, you know, getting a laptop for Hillary so she could do the design files so we could make stuff to sell it. So yeah, like the first 3 years, we really didn't take money out of the company. Everything went right back in for more inventory. So it was kind of like seeing this bank account grow, and then all the money would disappear because we get shipped overseas for us to make more gear.
What was like, as far as maybe for her and for you, was there like some kind of design inspiration? Like, how do you come up with this logo and this symbol essentially, and then how do you create new things, new designs? Like, how do you know what works and what doesn't? What was the process for that?
So I was talking, me and Hillary recorded a podcast this morning, and then we're talking about jiu-jitsu academies. I like tomato sauce. Not one jiu-jitsu. You can't make one tomato sauce that everyone's going to like. Same with jiu-jitsu academies, right? Some people want to train no gi all the time. Some people want to do like self-defense gi jiu-jitsu. Some people want to do like very modern sport gi jiu-jitsu and do like berimbolo and upside down crab rides, right? So you got to kind of find your sweet spot and use design for that, for where you want to be in this area. So for us is, I want to make a gi that's good quality. I want to have a simple design. I want to, like, you know, change the color scheme from time to time to make it, like, you know, feel new. But I just want something that's good quality, doesn't have too many patches, you know, doesn't have like a design that's like overly aggressive, like we were talking about before. And just keep it simple and fun. And like at the end of the day, like make something that I would want to wear or I would want to use. And then that's been our philosophy for like pretty much every single thing that we've made. Is if I want to make rush guards, it's like I want to make a really nice rush guard. I want to, like, you know, if I have options, it's like make it like a little bit heavier on the, like, you know, the best material that we can find, so it lasts a long time. Same with the gis. It's like I never haggle with my factories because I don't want to sacrifice quality. So I just want, like, you know, if you start haggling with the factories, then they start like taking stitches out. Like, you know, the money has to go somewhere, right? So, like, if you look at our gis, they have a ton of reinforcements. And I have people that still wear that original gi that probably shipped out of my house in 2012. There's people still rocking those gis. Like, that is a testament how good that quality is.
And then with the gym, I know that we talked about this before. You talking about tomato sauce. What was the training environment like where you're at? Because you got this you got this business that you're diving into here, you're going all into it. And then in the same time, you're still training. What was that training situation like while you were getting the whole business off the ground?
So when I just started the business, this is 2012, I was in New Jersey. I was training at a Alliance affiliate. So it was Alliance in New York. So Fabio Clemente, since then they have become Checkmat New York. And Lucas Lepri was there at the time. Babs was there. Babs he's like acting career has taken off. So I don't think he's teaching anywhere anymore. He was just in Dune, and then he's like on the new Star Trek show.
Okay.
So I was training with in the affiliate in New Jersey. I was teaching there, and then I was go into the noon training in New York as many days as I could. So 2, 3, 4 days a week. I would drive like about an hour into Newark, New Jersey, park my car, take the PATH train that costs like $2. So I would pay like $8 for parking, $2 for the train, and then walk a few blocks, go train at Fabio's, get my ass kicked by all these amazing black belts. And like, you know, there were guys at the gym at that time that were like, you know, placing at worlds at purple and brown. So that noon training was really good. And then I would take the train back. I would take the train back home and train, and then I would teach at night at when I was teaching in New Jersey. So I would just train as much as possible. Eventually, once I started dating Healy for a while, I wanted to get out of New Jersey, and we moved to Pennsylvania. Then once we moved away from this New Jersey school, it was a lot of bouncing around. First around the Philly area, and then up near the Allentown area once we moved up north and bought our house in Whitehall. So I've been in the Lehigh Valley for about 6 years. So I was not happy with the gi training in the area. So I ended up cross training with the 10 Planet guys a lot because they have like a really tough room. I was invited to, like, you know, they would have their pro training or like, you know, their Abu Dhabi training camps when John Blank, Thor had his runs at Abu Dhabi. Like, you know, helping Hene Sousa get ready for the Abu Dhabi trials, that kind of stuff. I've been now that the academy open, I've just been training at my academy, and I really want to, like, now that my schedule has opened up a little bit, or little ones start going to preschool, so we have like more freedom in the morning. I want to get back to cross training with the 10 Planet guys at least once a week.
Okay. Yeah, because you opened up your gym as kind of a thing where there was this gap in the gi training. Because I know, like, when I came in the area, like, I knew there was a 10th Planet like Bethlehem, and there's like a 10th Planet over in Allentown or whatever, you know. But when I was going in there, I've never heard about the gi training there. And so, like you were saying, you sort of created that gym to develop that gi training. Maybe a question for you is, like, so you were talking about different types of gyms. Some of these guys are really traditional. They do the self-defense. These guys are just doing the, you know, the upside down inverted guard and modern stuff. You know, what kind of gym do you try to create for yourself and for your students?
So I like having like a nice blend in the gym. So I like exposing my students to everything, but I really like just nail down a fundamentals curriculum and just making sure these guys like really understand some basic positions. Like, let's really understand close guard. Let's really understand how to open close guard and pass. Let's really understand like ranges. So we have like a close range, so like, or half guard. Can you function? Can your half guard function when somebody has you pinned chest to chest? Can you escape your hips up, put him back in close guard? Can you dig out an underhook? Can you go to half butterfly and use hook sweeps? Right? If you're smashed, like, if you're smashed in like, you know, flat, somebody flattens you out from butterfly, can you function from there? So like that close range, I feel like a lot of the newer schools have lost that, but us, the people that started training before 2010, that was like life back then. Like that close range and then mid range, like close guard and half guard butterfly was kind of like where we lived, and we got like so many reps, both sweeping and passing. Now, as Jiu-Jitsu got more modern, everybody wants like that longer range, and then like spider guard and lasso and berimbolos and lapel guard. But understanding how to do the range, the closer ranges first was something we really wanted to like weave into the DNA of the school. And I think we've done a pretty good job. We're a year into it, and then like I have these white belts that have been with me for a year, and they're getting really hard to keep in mount. Like it's really hard for me to keep them in side control. And whenever they establish the half guard, the close guard, they're working through the systems that we have put in place, and it's a lot of fun to me at least, and I think they're enjoying it. We have a tournament Saturday, a local tournament. We have about 20 guys competing. I'm like so excited to see like the culmination of all this work these guys have put in. Like the first tournament, a white belt. See how it's going, because it looks great in my room. I just want to make sure once we get out of my room how it looks like.
Yeah. Is this your first tournament, like big, like group tournament kind of thing with all your students?
We've had like two smaller ones. We did the same tournament last year, but we only had like 2 guys competing. And then we had Tap Cancer Out in Philly. That was like a bigger tournament. We went there, and I think we have maybe 5 people. This is the first time we have more than 10 people competing.
Cool. I remember my first time ever taking like a pretty big squad to a tournament, and like you said, you're looking on, you're excited to see what it looks like, maybe a little bit nervous because you're like, all right, let's see what happens now. And I hope it goes well for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Who's kind of, when you were coming up, who did you said Marcelo Garcia was someone you initially saw arm dragging people at ADCC? Who did you look for kind of to model your game after, some of the inspirations you had, and who do you actually look for now to maybe even keep your game modern or kind of up with all the new techniques that are going on?
So coming up, I was very fortunate to be part of Alliance and meeting a lot of the Alliance guys that were like winning world championships at black belt at the time. I got to like train, like, they would come to New York fairly often. So like Sergio Moraes, Tarsis Humphreys, like Lucas Lepre was there all the time. And I got to train with Lucas a few years before he moved down to Atlanta. So Purpleville, Lucas Lepre was a huge influence. And to this day, like my passing game, like definitely has Lucas' imprint on it. And then as I came up, like, Andre Galvao was somebody I always look up to, because we have like very similar body types. Like, he's not very tall. He fights like in the middle heavyweight division. And then these days, to keep my game modern, I really like the content that Lachlan Giles puts out. I think he does a really good job. And then I really like the way he breaks things down, and like it works with my brain. I'm not a big fan. Like I've seen a few like Danaher DVDs, and then he just loses me. I'm really into jiu-jitsu, but the way he explains things, he just doesn't jive with me.
Sure.
And so Lachlan Giles is one of my favorites. Jonathan Thomas. I've been very fortunate to know Jonathan for a long time. John, I used to, when Alliance had training camps for PANS or Worlds, I used to like fly out to Atlanta and like crash in John's couch, and John was just driving to practice back and forth. And it was those days that I remember how like we talk about jiu-jitsu camps now. It's kind of like a vacation. You go like this place and you train once a day, and then you're like at the beach and drinking beer and having a good time. Back then, like the only things available for jiu-jitsu vacations were like this like prep camps for Worlds or Pan Ams. So I remember going to Atlanta, and first time I think it was 2009 or 2010. And like, at the time, Alliance Atlanta was probably the best gi jiu-jitsu school in the world. Alliance was winning all these world titles, and then they were winning the world titles in the back. Not only the kids coming up from Brazil, but all these American guys training out of Atlanta, and then Alec and John and Ian McPherson and Ryan, all these people just winning, like, this like homemade team. They had these guys just winning medal in like adult blue belt, adult purple, adult brown, doing well in the like the black belt brackets. So I would go there for these training camps, and there was like 2 sessions a day, like, an hour, like, hard warm up, half an hour, hard technique, like lots of drilling. And then king of the guard for like half an hour, like 10 minutes close guard, 10 minutes half guard, 10 minutes open guard. And then 5-10 minute, like 4 or 5, 10 minute rounds. And then you just like, like insane training volume. So you just go, eat as much as you could to just get calories in you, and then I would just take a nap. I couldn't do anything else. And then like I wake up from, I remember John Thomas was like, "Oh man, we gotta go back to practice." I was like, "What is happening?" So then like, I was like drag myself to John's car, go to the gym, and then the same thing in the afternoon. And you would do that for a week, and then like, you were ready for anything after that,
Here's a question for you, because you're from an alliance. So, and this is just kind of, I'm curious. When you guys were in the alliance, the gym, did you guys call it Alliance? So like I had never heard anyone say Alliance until like a few years ago. I remember going to tournaments, and I remember like watching guys that were from Alliance like clean house and do really well. We all called them Alliance. And I remember even on like you'd go to the IBJJF and you'd hear so-and-so from Alliance, please come to the podium. Like the dude back in the old IBJJFs who was like the voice of it, right? He'd beat every single one of them. And then at some point it was like Alliance. I remember they were saying like, what team is that? I've never heard of that one.
Well, depends how thick your Portuguese accent is, or how Brazilian you want to appear. Because a lot of there was that point in jiu-jitsu where like being like Brazilian was cool, and like all these American dudes to like fake the Brazilian accent. So yes, it just depends how you pronounce it. But yeah, it's like if you pronounce it in the Portuguese pronunciation, the Brazilian Portuguese pronunciation is Alliance.
Okay, cool. Yeah, one of my first coaches, he would do the broken Portuguese American English accent thing, but I think he did it out of just that, like that was how he was coached. And so when he would get really excited, he'd start saying like, he'd say English, and then it would end with like a Portuguese word, like boy, like whatever, just because it came out.
He'd do the Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah,
just like she just get more Portuguese as a Yeah, have you ever seen that video of her?
Yeah,
just like how she's gotten older. Like,
so I have a Brazilian student now. I have 2 Brazilian students now, and it's funny because now like I feel like I've gone full circle. Now I'm teaching Brazilians instead of learning from Brazilians.
Yeah,
cool. But it's funny because when I talk to them, I speak a little bit of Portuguese, and I joke around. It's like it's Portuñol, because it's like whatever little Portuguese I know, and then I just fill in the gaps with Spanish.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to get caught up, and like you have these memories. Like I remember training in gyms in Newark, New Jersey, which has this like huge Brazilian and Portuguese community. And me and my one friend, this American, like we were the only people in the gym that didn't speak Portuguese. So the entire time, like it was like full immersion. Like you in, you're getting changed, people in the locker, all Portuguese. You come out. The coach had just moved in from Brazil. So he would start teaching in English, and then like somebody would ask a question in Portuguese, and then like you just flip the switch, and then the rest of the lesson was in Portuguese. So I like especially like that mid 2000s era where like everything was like half a guard and army lock.
Half a guard, yeah.
Half a guard.
Yes. So like people miss that era where we had to learn with broken English.
Yeah, so some of the old instructionals were like that. They'd be speaking, and some of them were just dubbed over. Like the early Marcelo DVDs, they were just dubbed over with some other guy's voice. Like talking to you very dry. Like you'd see Marcelo talking in Portuguese, and then the guy would be talking, and this is half guard, and you're going to take the leg. It was brutal.
Like dubbing over it.
Yeah.
Nelson, I want to know. So like you and Chewy, how did you guys kind of get to work together? Chewy did a seminar at your gym. I guess you guys competed against each other. What was that process for you? Like, man, you went against Chewy, saw his game, and like, what was that like for you and having him out to your gym?
Man, so it was what Nogi Worlds last year, and then Nogi Worlds I had this Brazilian guy first round, and he was like super tough. So I was like okay, like just get through this first round. Right, you just get through this first round. Like the guy's been a black belt, I think, longer than I have been training. He took third at both of the Brazilian Abu Dhabi trials.
Yeah, he was tough.
He was super tough. But the thing I realized was like this guy for MMA is all about this Abu Dhabi rule set. So he has amazing wrestling. So I was like, okay, I like my wrestling, but I think he really likes wrestling. So I was like, I'm just gonna pull guard, and I'm gonna sweep him from the bottom, right? So got in right away, gripped up before he can shoot at me or anything. I just sat down. I was like, okay, let's go. And then it was a back and forth, and I was able to. he's so tough to score on. He's like a cat, but I was able to knock him over a few times enough where I think I should have scored an advantage or two, but the ref didn't give me anything. But I did get the ref's decision. So got the ref's decision. I meet Chewy the second round. And then we had a nice back and forth. And then this man just caught me in a Kimura. I'd roll. I do this sweep from half guard. Anytime people go like cross body, and I'm like super confident in it. And I was able to hit it on Chewy, but he put my arm behind my back as we rolled through, and then like it was over. So he rolled me back over with the Kimura. I had to tap, and I was like, man, that was awesome. So the Chewy's favorite part about this, I told him, it's like my students are savages. So like I wasn't done sweating, and like my phone is ringing. I'm holding my phone, and the guys are like, hey, ask Chewy if he wants to come in for a Kimura seminar. And I was like, dude, like my arm still hurts.
It's terrible. It's so terrible.
Savages, man.
Savages. So yeah, I was like, hey, like, you know, I asked Chewy, I told him we were a fan, like my students were fans, if what would be the best way to get in touch with him if we want to do a seminar. He told me, hey man, like, you know, hit me up on Instagram. I always get back to people. So after, like, you know, I wasn't dad duty. We're like, we had the babies with us that day, and we had a friend that was supposed to come in. She ended up making it. So we were like juggling the kids, and then we ended up competing at the same time. So like my kids were in the bullpen. I was just competing. Like I was holding the 1-year-old right before I went on the mat with Chewy.
Yeah.
But then I was like, all right, I gotta, like, my kids are losing their shit. So I was like, I gotta grab my kids, see where my wife is. She ended up winning that day. And like, you know, I didn't see Chewy the rest of the day. And then, like, you know, I think a week later I messaged them and said, hey man, like, you know, I know you remember me, blah, blah, blah. I would love to have you. Send me some dates at work. So set up the seminar.
That's super cool. That's super cool. Like, I mean, it's like you build these, you compete, and that's, you know, Chew, you've talked about competing in MMA versus competing in Jiu-Jitsu, right? It's such a difference. Like you're kind of friends, and you learn from each other. And sometimes in MMA people do that, but like I think the environment's a little different because you're punching each other in the face. I think adds a little different element to it. But like it's super cool that like you guys can build these connections and actually learn from each other. And it's I mean, a feather in your cap would be like, hey man, come on out and show me what you did, and like let's learn from each other. I think that's awesome.
Well, and the whole thing with like MMA, I mean, I know you fought MMA too, Nelson. The type of people, if for at least for me, the people that like a lot of times you'd run into, for every like 20, you know, MMA fighters that you go to at like a lower level pro, mid-level pro, whatever, you know, amateur level fight, out of 20 of those, maybe 2 of them are like just pure sportsmen. They're there to compete, whatever else. And then there's like a spectrum that exists that goes all the way down to like, you know, the dude that's basically like, you know, man, I'm here to fight. And if I wasn't in jail right now, I would be like robbing you or something, you know, something stupid where, you know, they're not the kind of guys you kind of want to hang out with anyway. And after the fight's done, you're just kind of like, all right, I'm done with this. You know, whereas like with jiu-jitsu guys, it's like, okay, we'll go battle and we'll go after each other afterwards. But that, you know, but once it's done, it's like, you know, we're both kind of cool. We're here sportsmen. We're both competing. And especially masters, you know, when you're like, you're past, you know, your 30s or whatever, you're getting into your 30s or up, you kind of mature a little bit. It's not like being the 20-year-old who's just trying to like snap everyone's neck and then doesn't give a damn about anything else. Like you're holding your kids. There's things that are much more important in your life than winning this gold medal, but you know, you still want to test yourself. And I think it changes the dynamic of why you compete and how the whole competition feels too.
Yeah, I love competing, and I definitely, after last year, I realized how much I missed it. I took a long break from competing. I think I just did it a little bit too much coming up the ranks, and it was kind of, it went from every weekend on the local scene to just like, okay, let me do a few big ones. When I became part of Alianza, when I became part of Alliance, trying to go out to California and compete at Pans and compete at Worlds. And it just got to this point. I was kind of once I got into like, when I became, I think 27, 28, I just had so many injuries from jiu-jitsu and competing so hard and training so hard and doing all these double sessions where I wasn't recovering enough. I wasn't eating enough to recover. And I had just like these nagging injuries, and into like, you know, once I got my black belt, it was too much. It was too much. I was like 29, and I was like, you know, I struggled to tie my shoes because my hands were just so banged up from like grip fighting all the time. So I took like a long break and like, did all this traveling. And then the other thing too is like I would travel, but I would travel to California and then I'd be inside the pyramid, watch either competing, watching my friends compete or watching the black belt finals.
Didn't get to enjoy it at all.
Yeah. Like I think I would go to the beach for like an hour. Like, I put my feet in the water. I had, what's it called? In-N-Out Burger. It was like, all right, that's California.
Yeah.
You know,
Now onto the airplane. Now let's go back home.
Now let's go back home. Let's get back to training on Monday. Yeah. So there was this period in my life where like, okay, like I did all that. Let's see the other side of jiu-jitsu and like, like build these relationships and like teach these camps and teach seminars and like, enjoy a little bit more. Now, I have my academy. I have a good training situation once again, especially for the gi. And I am so happy. And I kind of wanted to see, I never competed at Masters. So I was like, last year, I was like, okay, like, let me see what it looks like. So like, I did Nashville Open, I did Chicago Open, then I did Master Worlds, and then I did No-Gi Worlds. And then like, that was 4 tournaments. And I was like super happy. And now I'm definitely, this year has been a little more hectic than last year. I had like some travel pop up. We did some camps. So now I'm just trying to figure out like my second half of the year. And I'm looking at either like Master Worlds or American Nationals, like, definitely fit in an IBJJF tournament. Because the IBJJF, I have all these qualms with IBJJF, but you can't deny that they just run a really good tournament.
They do.
And then their master circuit is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's hard, like even today, like where I live locally, there's not a lot of black belts that I can go down the street and get a good match with,
Right.
or if there's any, but then if I go one of these, even the opens, like, I'm fortunate. Like every time I go to an open, I've had like at least 4 people in my bracket, and then I go on the absolute and I'll get another 3 matches.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do like, I know if I do American Nationals, I probably have at least 3-4 matches in my weight, and then possible another 3 or 4 in the absolute. So super happy with that. Brings a lot of joy to go do jiu-jitsu. And then especially when I do gi jiu-jitsu, it's like I don't do anything flashy. So when my students watch, half the time I'm doing this stuff that we go over in the fundamentals curriculum.
Yeah.
And then that's huge for them because they see, one, they get something to cheer on. They see the coach out there putting it on the line. And then they see like, the stuff we do there, and it will work at the black belt level one day.
Yeah, it's interesting. You were talking about the IBJJF. That's one thing. Like I wrote about this one of my emails the other day that, there's like things I love about the IBJJF and there's things I hate about the IBJJF, and nonetheless, it's like overall, it's a great tournament, especially coming from the early to mid 2000s when I first started, where, tournaments it was a complete mess. I remember doing like, my open division as a white belt at like almost midnight, and it was nuts and some of the other stuff. But the IBJJF still does some things that I hate. Is there anything in particular that you dislike about the IBJJF tournaments?
Oh man, let's see. So where do we start? Like the IBJJF to start with, like the word International Brazilian Federation, like they're not a true federation in the way that there's not like a board of trustees or like a real governing body like FILA for wrestling is, or the International Judo Federation is. It's a for-profit company that runs tournaments however they see fit. So we have to respect that it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
That being said, for example, like the way they certify black belts, I competed my entire career at and during the IBJJF. I medal IBJJF blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. I stopped competing, so I stopped paying my membership fee. When I came back to compete again and get like my school register and all this stuff, they're like, yes, you're a black belt, but we're not going to recognize your degrees because you didn't pay all these years. We don't know if you were training.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, come on. It's like, you knew I was a black belt back then. And then there's like, oh no, I'm sorry, this is the way the system is. Like, okay, like your rules are your rules. I think they've done some good things on the rule book. I think allowing heel hooks in no-gi at adult and brown belt has been great.
Yeah.
But still, like there's little things like, the reaping rule. I think I understand there's like safety concerns here and there, but I think it's gotten a little antiquated, especially as people have become better at ankle locks and knee bars. And they're all like, I always like every year there's controversial calls about like, ankle locks are allowed in this division, but knee bars are not. and then either the person performing the ankle lock turns it into a knee bar, or the person defending it spins in a way that turns the ankle into a knee bar, and then like somebody gets DQ, and then like there's like lots of shouting in Portuguese taking place. Mm-hmm. So like little things about the rule book I think it could be changed, but like we said, overall, like sadly, like no one runs a better tournament.
Yeah, they got it dialed in, and I mean a lot of it's like the professionalism. I feel like obviously the calls can be kind of up in the air a little bit, but like it's timely. You have your brackets, when you're going to go, and it's pretty close to when you're going to go. You're going to kind of see when you're up and kind of better able to prepare yourself for your matches, and I think they do a nice job there.
I agree.
Yeah. Nelson, I want to ask you, man, this kind of like an obsession with jiu-jitsu and everything. What was it about jiu-jitsu for you that maybe just really drew you in? We didn't really touch on it. I know you kind of had this scratch this itch from wrestling, but it turned into something totally, taking over your life in a lot of ways, your business, you're running inverter gear, running your own gym, and then training pretty much all the time. What has jiu-jitsu kind of meant to you essentially for your life, and how has it kind of been a big part of that for you?
So as I've grown older and I've learned more about ADHD, because I was diagnosed with the ADHD as a first grader, but no one ever took the time to teach me what that meant. Right. I remember having talking to a therapist, and then like him helping me with like exercises to help me focus, right, and like understand things, and like being able to stay in the classroom and like stay with the teacher. But as I got older, like the ADHD people with ADHD have this thing where like you hyper focus on something, like you put all your attention on something, you want to do nothing else, right? So I've realized over my life I've done this a bunch of times for like different things. So when I got to jiu-jitsu, I could apply this like hyper focus thing, and in somewhat healthy manner, right? Socially acceptable manner, where I'm like spending all my time doing this one thing, and like that's all I want to talk about and all I want to read about. And I want to, like, if I'm not doing it, I want to be watching matches or instructionals or talk to my friends about things we could do or tournaments. So that's how kind of started. It's like my first love for jiu-jitsu came as part of my ADHD and like just hyper focusing on this thing. And then over the years, it's like the jiu-jitsu we talk about it. It's just like the depth of content to it, like the amount of things you can work on jiu-jitsu. There's always something new to work on. So I could start this process over and over, just in a different area of jiu-jitsu. So at the beginning when I started jiu-jitsu, I was like, oh man, I wrestled before, like half guard makes sense to me. I'm going to attach myself to this one leg. I'm going to get an underhook. I'm going to work from that underhook. And I just wanted to work on half guard. And then I was like, okay, let's work on close guard. Like I had a lot of like old school instructors. It's like, hey man, like, if you're doing jiu-jitsu, you got to do close guard. Okay, let me work on close guard. Then I realized that I had like my half guard game was like pretty good. I had a decent close guard game. But then if I wasn't in half guard, I wasn't in close guard, I was completely lost. So I was like, okay, let's really work on open guard and understand this open guard. So I've been I've been training jiu-jitsu since 2007. So it's been over 15 years of this process, just over and over and over and over again. And then it just lights up my brain in all the right ways. And it just keeps my attention. ADHD people have this thing where like they're really good at 3D mapping in their brain. If you any kind of like 3D mapping exercise, if you have kids with ADHD, they're going to do really well at it. So I think it's one of the reasons people with ADHD are good at jiu-jitsu, because we can see a move and then you kind of like can map it in your head, like in a 3D map fairly well. So I take last year when we opened the gym, there was this kid nearby. His name is Nick Sells. He's a Mikey Musumeci black belt. So we bought like this 10 lesson private package, and we took like 10 1-hour privates, Hilary and I with him, and then you kind of like updated our jiu-jitsu. And I was like, okay, man, like all the young kids are doing lapel guard. Can you show me some how to like lapel guard passes? Because I wasn't training gi for a while, so when all this lapel guard like really developed. So I was like, can you catch me up here? So I'm not like, completely confused about this. So he started showing me like all this like really modern jiu-jitsu stuff, like, like the upside down crab ride, all the lapel stuff, all the lapel passing. And he was like amazed. Like every time he told me something, I kind of like take a second and he would like watch, and like I like, my brain will turn and like, do the 3D map thing. And then I was like, okay. And then I would be able to do it. And then he was like, holy shit, man. Like, how are you doing that after I show it to you once? It's kind of like the ADHD superpower, right? So it's been one of those things where I was never an athletic kid growing up. My sister was really good at soccer growing up. So like every soccer every pickup game in our neighborhood, right? 2 kids would pick teams. My sister was always like pick like first or second. And then I was picked last every single time. Like I was never a good athlete. Same in high school. I was not like, I was like a star in the football team. I wasn't like a track star. I did track. I was an okay wrestler because I just kept, I would get taken down. I kept getting up, and eventually, like, I had a decent gas tank. So I had a decent season my senior year just out of toughness. But I was never like, this very like built or athletic or fast. But when I got to jiu-jitsu is I would become obsessed with specific positions until I was really good at them, and I could compete, and I could do these things on somebody my level, right? And then like that was like so rewarding for me. Like I never won a gold medal until my first jiu-jitsu or my second jiu-jitsu tournament. I didn't win my first jiu-jitsu tournament. My second jiu-jitsu tournament, I got a gold medal, and then I was like, this is it. Like this is the greatest thing ever. This is a sport I will do until I die. And that's all, like, it's been 15 years of obsession.
Chewy, you got anything?
No, brother, it was good. It was
awesome,
it was good having you on, bro. I'm glad we got to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah. Hey, Nelson, so if people want to get some inverted gear, they want to train with you or kind of see what you're up to, where can they find out what you're doing and kind of get a hold of you if they want to do that?
So invertedgear.com has all the gear. Invertedgearacademy.com has information about Academy. And then you can find me on Instagram at invertedgearnelson.
Awesome, brother.
Very cool, bro. So, man, again, thank you for being on the podcast, and I wish you the best with everything, dude.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Likewise, my friends.
Thanks. All right, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed the podcast with Nelson. Hopefully you got a little takeaway. Again, I like talking to business owners, so I'm sure that probably comes through. I'm always asking them little questions about their business and how they did things. You know what I mean? Like there was a cool thing in there if you paid attention, which as a business owner, sometimes it's a good idea to start a little bit less expensive, because he's like starting on BJHQ as a deal to get his name out there. And then afterwards, he worked his way up, right? Once he was kind of in the market, then it became, okay, like we don't necessarily need to do this all the time. I thought that was an interesting thing. And then, kind of taking his idea from idea to action, and, taking his break from school,
Yeah, that's funny when he said break, and I was like, huh, he's never went back.
But the thing about school, it's interesting. I'm reading this book right now called Boyd.
Okay.
It's about a fighter pilot. It's a biography. And he's like, he ended up like getting out of like, he wasn't flying all the time and became like this guy that was like really helpful for pushing the United States Air Force's doctrines and stuff like that, and their planes and everything else. And he went to school for engineering to learn about this stuff, and then like when I'm reading about this, I'm like, oh man, like I wish like someone would have like when they're telling you to go to school, like give you some context as to what you could do with that.
Yeah.
Maybe they did that, but I mean, we grew up poor, so we weren't that, like if we got through high school, it's like, hey, you did it.
That's right.
Now it's like college is like, well, we'd love you to go to college, but okay. But like, if you would have told me, okay, like, look, like this job, you could help design like fighter jets or something like that. That could be one of your paths. Like, really? That would have been friggin' fascinating.
That'd be cool.
But I didn't know that, and so I think sometimes if they would give context to some of these professions and some of these careers, I think you could probably get more people to be on board with them, because again, like a lot of times with mathematics and stuff, it's like, I don't know why I would ever need to learn any of this.
Right.
But then if they said, well, here's the reason why this could be used in this capacity, if there's some context to it, or some reason why I feel like I need to, at least this is the way I learn, right? If there's a reason why I need to learn that, I'll learn it. But if like I don't feel like it has value, then I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going to learn it. I don't really need to.
Yeah, I think like a purpose. Like I think when I went to physical therapy school, like everything that I was learning, had a purpose. Like I need to know this so I can, do this thing. I have to know anatomy. I have to have a very high depth of knowledge on this thing.
Yeah.
Or doing, specific hands-on techniques. I had to know that to be effective in some way. So I was like, well, why am I taking biology or microbiology or whatever? Like, what am I going to do with that? There's no reason. There's no motivation. There's no desire.
You're just basically doing it because you need to do it.
Because I have to have the science or whatever to go on. So
because
that wasn't in physical therapy school. That was obviously in undergrad. So
the schools are like, hey, we gotta rake a little bit more money out.
We got to get our undergrad. We got to get you got to make sure you're well rounded.
It's a money pit. It's just basically, let's see how much money we can get out of them.
A lot
before they leave.
A lot. And you talk to people that went to school, 20 years ago or something, and they're like, they didn't come out with all these loans because school costs like $400 a semester or something. I mean, it was insane.
Well, even if you go back and look at the people that like sort of like, for instance, in the United States, the people that like created this country, like the way that we would think of it, like when they like after the big boom of like say World War II, we had all this money coming in, and these guys are building bridges, building buildings, and all this stuff, right? Like these dudes weren't educated with the type of degrees that we had. That now they're like, they could like I knew. I mean, for instance, I knew one of my friends' dads, like he sort of became a mechanical engineer doing like side classes and at the same time learning on the job.
Yeah.
And I remember he would like, if you went through like Louisville, he'd be like, yeah, I had that built. I designed that thing. You know what I mean? He's like showing you stuff and you're like, that seems like such a better way to do things, is like going through school, but actually like training and
on the job. Yeah.
Having some sort of like long apprenticeship that's like very like specific to that job, opposed to like, hey, we need you to learn all of this stuff that you probably don't even care about, that you won't remember, but we want you to learn it.
I think that's very important. A lot of the, for physical therapy school, a lot of it's on the job training, learning actually how to implement these things, because everything's kind of theory. You're working on healthy individuals for the most part that don't have any dysfunction. Yeah. But I think some of it is the barrier to entry. Like there's got to be some type of test, some type of barrier to entry that you get a certain type of quality of person, student, and I understand that, but that could probably be adjusted in some capacity.
I'm sure you could adjust it without like saying, hey, we need to get 40 grand out of you before you even get to decide what you actually want to do, right?
Before you get to doing it. So anyway, soapbox,
random tangent.
Go to college, kids, if you want, or get an apprenticeship.
I think college is a great thing, just as long as you know what you're going to do with it.
That's right.
Anyway, thank you guys for joining the podcast and listening to our rant on school. Not
very random, but
not that you guys came here for. But anyway, again, appreciate you guys for being here. Again, thanks to our sponsors for helping make the podcast happen. charlottesweb.com. Check them out at charlottesweb.com. Use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu20 at checkout to get 20% off the order. Again, grab one of their products if you're interested. Try it out for a month, see what you feel from it. Again, if you're someone that's just, I throw this out there to let people know, if you're someone that's worried about being tested for different banned substances like THC, check out their Sports Edge product, or the Edge product.
It's called Recreate
now. Okay. Yeah. Recreate product. They've changed a little bit. If you go on their website and look that up, that is their product that is for people like you. Do a little bit more research on it, obviously, to make sure that it would work with the type of testing that you do. But otherwise, it's a really good, cool product. And again, could be really useful to you. But again, try out whatever product you do use it for a month. Also, thanks to Epic Roll. EpicRollBJJ.com is the website. Go on there and browse through. Matt makes a lot of cool stuff, cool designs, great quality stuff. Everything from gis, rash guards, and shorts, all the gear that you would train and compete in, to t-shirts, hoodies, gear bags, fanny packs. I mean, everything that you might just kind of wear when you're out and around. And again, you can check it out at EpicRollBJJ.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu for 15% off. And again, if you want to join the Patreon and become a loyal Patreon subscriber for a very inexpensive price, you can do so by going to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Upon joining, you'll get access to an exclusive library that we've created with all of the different guests that we've had on the podcast. And along with that, you will get access to some exclusive things that we don't offer anywhere else, like a warm-up routine / stretching mobility type routine that Eugene put together. So again, for all of you guys that are like, man, I'm stiff, I'm tight, my hips are tight, my shoulders are tight, all the normal areas that jiu-jitsu guys are plagued from, check it out. It's in there. There's also some other stuff like rolls and seminars that I've recorded of me teaching people. So it's a lot of cool stuff that you get access to. And again, it comes through the membership for a very expensive price at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And if you'd like to get my daily email, you can do so by going to chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. Upon joining, you'll get access to some exclusive ebooks that I give away. One is on how to add some focus to your jiu-jitsu training through different drilling strategies, both passive and active. You'll know what I'm talking about when you read the book. And then there's also a one to teach you how to create your own jiu-jitsu game plan. And it'll show you my exact game plan that I used for a long time. It's been updated a little bit since then, but that's the core of it. And again, afterwards, you'll get my daily email. And it's also some exclusive offers that I send through the email at chewjitsu.net/join. So guys, with that said, that's the podcast. Hope you guys had a good time. Thank you guys as always for joining us this week. We'll talk to you next time.